Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Eric with American Business Systems. I look forward to having everybody on today's webinar. As you are coming in, let me be one of the first to tell you Happy New Year again from last week. Got to be on here last week, but many of you may not have been able to join us last Monday or last week whenever we had this last Wednesday. And some of you are brand new. So since some of you are brand new, again, I encourage you and just want to tell you Happy New Year. Got a great outcome look over 2023. So there is a lot of great things that Dr. Rackner and I are going to talk about today. So I hope that you came to bring your questions, and we're going to be monitoring those questions. Matter of fact, let me pull that up here and pull that out of the way. So I've got that so I can see my screen there. So I've got question box open. I've got participants box open. I see everybody on here. So we are in good way, getting ready to get started here. So again, my name is Eric O'Shea. I'll be your co-host this afternoon. Dr. Rackner will be joining us here just in a very quick moment. But again, want to make sure that we're being heard. So some of you that I know that have already been on here, you kind of know what to do already. So if you don't mind, just go over the Q&A box and just type in hello. You can tell us maybe even what part of the country that you're out of this afternoon. This helps us to make sure that we're being heard loud and clear. I'm actually going to move my mic over just a little bit. And then I want to give you the opportunity to know where you can ask your questions, because again, this is a genuine opportunity that everybody has today to actually hear from a doctor. So whatever questions that you have, please jump in here with your questions and we'll certainly do that. So I've got one person that can hear me, and that's Joe from Houston. So Joe, thank you. Let's see if we can get anybody else out there to shake the trees out there. How about Ted or let's see, Devin, Derek, got Ted, thank you, from Virginia. Thank you so much. I appreciate the participation. Devin's 10-4. Good. Thank you. I appreciate it, everybody. Thank you so much. Now, I know there's more people on here because I can see your name. I can start calling people out. Yogan, good to see you. He just raised his hand there. Devin says, sounds good. We're good to go. And again, I again want to welcome you here this afternoon. Can you believe, folks, 29 years in business? ABS, the Phillips family, has been in servicing folks just like you, getting them started on their dream to have their own work from home job or work from home opportunity, business opportunity. And well, what an exciting ride this has been. And it's just an amazing trip that I've been on with the Phillips family. Here, I'll be celebrating 15 years being with them. So about almost half of the time that they've been around, I've been around. So it's just really good. It's a solid group of folks here, and really looking forward to working with you and helping you lead you down the path to what you're wanting to do. And that is to work for yourself and support your family and have something that's going to be there during recessions or even as we went through the last few years on the pandemic. Gosh, we kept going strong. Our licensees / business owners did very well. And it's all because of the platform and the partnerships that we have been able to create. As you can see here, we've got an incredible partnership with a company called Nextgen Healthcare. And you can go out there and go take a look at them. They're out there on the internet, and go see what all they have. But ABS has been in partnership with Nextgen for quite a long time, and they are the ones that power all of our services for the billing, the electronic medical records, the patient portal, and for those that know a little bit about billing, the clearinghouse. It's all built in all together, which is a unique platform than any other billing platform that's out there on the market. So whenever you're asking the questions, why would a doctor use you outside of just wanting somebody else differently to do their billing for them? It's because we've got a superior platform, and it helps us get that doctor more money in a lot quicker. But besides just the iClaim and EMR system, there are other services that all come included with the one-time fee that is to get started here. So that one-time fee gets you the iClaim EMRX platform. It also gets you the virtual care services, Audit Guard, Code Right, which is all about coding You do not need to go to school to become a professional coder. I'll say it again. You do not need to go to a coding school or a medical billing school or anything like that, because all these services are all actually all built in. There are some other things that helps the doctors collect on their patients for instead of sending patients out to a collection agency. There are some other things that we can do to help them collect some money that's owed to the doctor and do it in a very professional way without making the patients feel like they've been sent again to a collection agency. And then there's some of you who want to do maybe some dental billing. You see Dentamax there. And then lastly, for every doctor needs this, and that's that little box down there that says Compliancy Guard. Now, we're not going to get to spend a lot of time on each of these services, but every doctor needs to make sure that their HIPAA compliancy paperwork is all done, especially now here at the beginning of a new year. All of that has to be done and updated every year. We've got all that taken care of. Plus, I already said that you do not need to go to school for anything. You don't have to go to a billing school. You don't need to go to a coding school, but because you're going to get all the training that you're going to need through and for that one-time fee here at American Business Systems. You're going to get the certification to become a certified medical revenue manager. Now, that doesn't mean that's all the training that you're going to get. We have tons of hours of other types of training that we have available, plus all of the training that we have on outside of what we're doing today, like the webinar that we're doing today. We have a lot of live training that happens on Fridays. We've got roundtables that happen. You've got support that goes, you can go there directly. So all the training that you're going to need to kind of get some things going here. Let's see, someone's asking a quick question here already, and I'll hold that question there just for a second, but I appreciate the questions coming in so early. Today, we're going to be visiting with Dr. Vicki Rackner. Let me share a little bit about Dr. Rackner here. Obviously, she is very well known. She's been all over the social media world. She's USA Today. She has written all sorts of books. Like I said, she's been all over all these different platforms. She is a specific writer for different magazines and some areas. She's got showcase articles all over the place. She is also she's part of the American College of Surgeons. So she truly is a real doctor, folks. She's been there. She's going to tell you about all of her experience. And she's also the medical director of MIRMA. Now, this is important because if y'all just remember back up here on this certification, this certification is given out by MIRMA. And you're going to be talking with the medical director of MIRMA today. And without any further ado, I'm going to ask Dr. Rackner to join me. Let's see if she's coming on.
Hello, Eric.
Dr. Rackner, it's good to see you, and Happy New Year again to you.
And to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Now, before we get into all these other different slides, you were telling me some incredible information that we're going to I'd like for you to talk about. What's going on in healthcare? What's kind of going on with doctors? Why do doctors need help? So let's kind of have this discussion.
So, Eric, I was taking my dog for a walk. I live near a lake, and a huge windstorm had blown through, and it blew a dock from its mooring. So it was just kind of floating out there in the lake.
Right.
There was somebody from the city there, and I said, well, how are you going to get that reconnected? And he said, we don't know. We've never been here before.
Oh,
but
wow.
they put their heads together and did it. And I thought that was an absolutely perfect metaphor for what is happening with physicians. They have been pulled from their financial mooring primarily because of COVID.
Right.
And they're still trying to get reconnected, and they're still trying to do it in a smart way. So, if you think about the beginning of the pandemic, remember, we were worried about whether there would be enough ventilators around, right?
Right.
The demand for ventilators is going to exceed the supply. Well, every time I operated on a breast cancer patient, she was on a ventilator. And hospitals across the United States decided that they were going to cancel all the elective cases just so that we would have enough ventilators. And these elective cases are the engines that drive profitability of hospitals and clinics and individual practices. So some doctors in 2020 saw their income go down by as much as 80 or 90%.
Wow.
And, no doctor ever imagined that their income would do anything.
Right.
Go up year after year. So they're catching up and they're doing it in smart ways. Now, I have been a physician for many, many years. And when I got out of my training, most of us went into private practice. But during the 90s, there was a shift. Doctors sold their practices to hospitals and clinics and became employees. But you know what? During the COVID pandemic, a lot of doctors were furloughed. They were laid off. Matching contributions to their retirement funds were canceled. So this perception of security they saw isn't there.
Right.
So now we're seeing a trend of doctors going back into private practice and really trying to do this in a smart way. So I think that I don't think, Eric, there has ever been a better time to get into this business. There's financial pain. Doctors need you now.
And why don't you share a little bit about what you're currently doing? You're helping doctors from a financial end because you're getting all this data. You're a big data type person, and you're seeing this, but you're collecting this because you're working with doctors and their financial advisors. Am I correct?
That's correct. Something I didn't tell you is that I've become a certified life coach.
Awesome. And
the reason that I did that is a lot of doctors make very irrational decisions about their money. So I'm the world's leading expert on doctors and money. So let me just put that out there. And, if you want to make different choices about money, it's not just a question of doing something with your checking account. It means making deep fundamental changes. And as a certified life coach, what I do is I help people see what's happening in their brains.
Sure.
And I will tell you that doctors make very irrational choices about money. So what I do on my Thriving Doctors site, what you'll see is I want to help doctors take their heart for service and develop a brain for business.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So I do all sorts of things, including volunteering for an organization that provides free anonymous coaching for doctors who are burned out, like doctors who want to end their life, who want to leave medicine. So I consider, as Brene Brown says, I consider those stories kind of data with a soul. And there is a lot of pain. The Mayo Clinic just published a study. 62% of doctors last year reported that they were burned out. Like, I don't know about you, but I don't want somebody taking care of me who is burned out.
Right.
So there is just this huge epidemic. On the other hand, there are doctors for whom 2020, 21, 22 were the best years ever. So I don't want to give you the impression that all doctors are struggling, because that's certainly not the case.
Correct.
But doctors are not completely optimistic about when they're going to catch up financially. And let me just throw in another piece of data. Before the pandemic hit, 50% of doctors said that they were behind in retirement planning, right? So they were counting on the productivity in years to come to catch up. And now they're even further behind. So what are they going to do? Are they going to go faster on the hamster wheel? The more prudent answer is get paid for what you do. Like most doctors walk away from about 30% of their income. And doesn't it just make sense that instead of extending your workday another 2 hours, you work less and just get the business side of medicine taken care of?
Yeah, you bet. Now, you just said something that I just went ahead and pulled up this one slide here, because you actually just quoted yourself from your own book about physicians in private practices walk away from an average of 30% of their income. Explain that. I mean, it's one thing if they hear Patrick and I say this, and because a lot of times, obviously, we quote you quite often, but you explain this to this group that's here this afternoon.
Absolutely. So I had my own private surgical practice. And when I first went into practice, my partner and I had an office manager. So she did everything except operate pretty much. So she would send out the bills, she would take in the money. And what happens is that insurance companies, they're in the business of making money.
Right.
And they know that if they can hang on to that money for a little longer, they're going to make more money. Now, I know this is cynical, right? But I've heard this from insurance insiders. Okay, so they reject about 30% of the claims. And in a busy practice with this office manager, like I'm describing to you, following up on the rejected claims is toward the bottom of the list. And I remember my CPA telling me, "Oh, I love insurance for rejections. That's your tax write-off that you need."
Oh,
but,
man.
that's not really a smart way to run a business. So, if you can follow up with these claims and just get paid for the patients that you've already seen, it just makes sense. Now, if you were to ask the average doctor in private practice, well, what's your rejection rate? They just look at you cross-eyed. They have no idea. This number is probably unknown to most doctors.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we've seen. We've seen so many doctors not even know what the rejection rate is, or they may say, "Oh, it's probably 2 or 3." But when we do what's known as a practice analysis, then we really do pull those numbers and gets to some real numbers. And gosh, it can be as high as 13, 14, as high as 20%. And it could even be higher than that. And you talk about surprising to the doctors.
Yeah. Now, Eric, there is one thing that I want to get in right at the top of the hour so everyone can hear this. You are here undoubtedly because you're looking for your next business opportunity and you want to make a smart choice. And I totally honor you for that. I work with financial advisors who say that we are in for a rocky financial ride in the years to come. We're probably taking a look at a recession. Forbes made a list of the 3 top industries that are recession-proof. Healthcare is number 1. So we will always need our doctors. Doctors will always need to get paid. And for the foreseeable future, the way they get paid is by submitting claims to insurance companies. So I have no financial standing in ABS systems, but I will tell you, in my humble opinion, this hands down is a great opportunity at this moment in time. It's never been better.
Absolutely. I think you're exactly right. Matter of fact, last week Patrick and I took some analysis from an organization out there that about some of the things that you're talking about, denied claims, and how a lot of those claims that are denied really are avoidable. And there were 3 things that they said. You got to have the right software at the right time with the right people. And so with that said, you say to doctors should try to get the right person to get the job done right. Now, talk with us about how important it is to get the right person in there to get the job done right.
All right. So when I got out of residency, I joined a practice with a solo surgeon. And I already told you about this office manager. Well, I had the opportunity to go to a different hospital and set up an office as part of a multidisciplinary team treating breast cancer patients. So I was really, really excited. Now, Elise had done all of our billing. She had done all of Dan's billing up to that point. And when I came, we had some rockiness. I didn't know anything about the billing, like how the money works. And so I asked Elise questions like, so you submit a claim, like how long does it take to get back? And, like, when am I going to get paid? Well, one day Dan came in and there was a letter of resignation from Elise on his desk. We suspect that what had happened was that she was embezzling, and with me asking the questions, she could get found out. There were all sorts of other, red flags there. But Dan's wife said, oh, so you need somebody to do the billing. Well, that can't be too hard. Let me just take a couple hours from my tennis game each week and do your billing for you. And it was a disaster. Instead of taking money out of the practice, we had to make an owner investment to pay the taxes.
Heard that before too.
And so we decided, okay, we need to hire somebody. And so we hired this lovely, lovely temp. She would go out and help the little old ladies fill out their paperwork. And a couple weeks after we made our hire and this woman left, the temp agency said, it's just come to our attention that we sent you a felon. This woman had perpetrated Medicare fraud. So if you notice any irregularities, consider that. And it was sort of like, oh my God, how would we even notice the irregularities? But I felt so vulnerable. My ability to pay my mortgage, my medical school debt, it was dependent on my being able to reliably bring home money. So when I broke off and set up my own office, I decided I was going to outsource my billing. I didn't want somebody who was just, spending 5% of their time billing, taking care of this really critical function.
Sure.
I didn't do my own taxes. I hired an expert. I didn't do my own will. I hired an expert. And I decided that this function was so important that I wanted to hire the experts, and not just the experts who, spent 10 hours a week. I wanted somebody who spent 40 hours a week working with doctors just like me, so I would know that I wasn't overbilling or underbilling. It was just right, like Goldilocks billing.
Goldilocks billing. That's awesome. Now, you mentioned something else about theft and fraud, and you kind of just, this is number two. One of the other things that you need to do for doctors, that they need to do checks and balances to prevent that fraud.
Right.
How do you recommend that happens as well?
Well, by not having one person take care of everything. It would have been really, really easy for this woman to embezzle, because she's the one who sent out the bills. She's the one who collected the money and made the statements. And, it's just a setup. This is one of doctors' deepest fears. I'm a contributing expert to the Journal of Medical Practice Management. And the editor told me that every issue has to have something about theft and fraud, because this is a huge topic. So when you outsource your billing, you inherently put in a system of checks and balances. And that was very attractive to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the reasons why when people are trying to think about this business, their first question is, why would a doctor use me? Because don't they already have their own billers? And I think you just answered that question of one of the biggest things that, even when Patrick and I do these webinars, we don't even talk about, the potential for fraud or theft happening inside the office, because truly the doctors really do have that opportunity, or the people that are handling his or her money right there in the office, they have direct access to bank accounts and the cash that comes in. Whereas an outsourced biller, they're just billing the insurance companies and getting that back to the doctor's office.
That's right. And so that is really important. But there was another thing that was really important for me. And that is, I didn't want to be audited. if you're audited by Medicare or the state or an insurance company, you're sort of guilty until proven innocent.
Yes.
And I just didn't want to do it. I didn't want to overbill, right?
Right.
But I didn't want, because I didn't want to get audited, but I didn't want to underbill and be unfair to me. And this point right here is, why is it that patients sue their doctors for medical malpractice? Because bad stuff happens on a regular basis.
Right.
And there had been a study that showed that if patients had a financial glitch, like billing kinds of problems, they were more likely to sue for medical negligence. So if you have a way of dealing with the finance, the medical payments, disputes. I just recently had an operation. I had cataracts, and there was just this, the insurance companies weren't going to accept my insurance. And I cannot tell you how many hours I spent on the phone with this.
Sure.
And the office staff, they were completely awesome. And I was so grateful. So being able to provide that kind of Nordstrom's touch protects doctors from being sued.
Right. One of the services that we have, Dr. Rackner, and this, is called Audit Garden. And I mentioned earlier, kind of in the introduction, that nobody has to go to a school to become a certified professional coder. And this is one of those areas, because Audit Guard, what it does is doing what Dr. Rackner talks about there, which will do these payer audits. So imagine, because she was talking in terms of, she didn't want to overcharge on her claims. She didn't want to undercharge, so want to make sure that her codes are being coded properly. So when she says, again, undercoding or overcoding, that's what you kind of think of it from a layman's position. You don't want to overcharge Medicare. You don't want to undercharge Medicare. You want to be just right. And so we actually have, folks, if you can imagine this, this could be a great door opener when you're starting to get out there and build your business with doctors. Not all billing companies do what's called a full audit on their codes. So imagine to take a sampling of all of the doctors' visits that they've had and run it through a system, which is with real people, not just through some computer system or anything, but through real people who are long-term certified professional coders, and then take a look at that and then give that information back to somebody like a Dr. Rackner and say, hey, Dr. Rackner, you could be charging a little bit more because your notes are substantiating a little bit higher code than you can do. But on these, I think we're thinking you're overcoding a little bit, or get your notes up to where they're going to be. Am I speaking correctly, Dr. Rackner?
Absolutely. And let me just tell you another little side story. So up until the very recent past, the amount that Medicare paid individual physicians was secret, like nobody knew. And then with Obamacare, that data became available. And there were some outlier doctors, not as many as in business, but there were the outliers. And so basically, the government has hired people to go out and find doctors who were perpetrating Medicare fraud, and they get a percentage of what they collect. Now, this doesn't have anything to do with you, right? Because you protect doctors from things like that. But these kinds of things make doctors really nervous, because all you need is one disgruntled patient who goes to Medicare and says, I don't know about this billing. I don't know. I didn't do that. I was charged for things that services I didn't receive. And the probability of something like that happening is very low, but the anxiety about that kind of thing happening is very high. So this is kind of like an insurance policy that protects a doctor's most valuable resource, which is their cash flow.
You bet. Yeah. And, I remember whenever that came out, it was called what used to be called rack audits. They're still there doing that. But That was a serious business there, and it really did make doctors a little nervous. You also talk about doctors need to build their ideal practice. What does that look like?
Yeah. So when I broke off and set up my own office, I was amazed that the biller brought in reports, and she would show me how profitable each procedure was.
Mm-hmm.
And she would show me the insurance compensation for like an appendectomy. I used to get paid anywhere from $200 on with Medicaid patients to about $2,000 with the Blues. So that's a big difference.
Right.
And if you are worried about, saving for your child's education, doesn't it make sense to know what the most profitable way of spending your time is? Now, sometimes my interest would override money. Like I would volunteer at the free clinic. I've gone on medical missions, but running my practice like a business was really helpful. So now I had some numbers, and then I could look inside. What kinds of patients brought me the greatest satisfaction? And then I could make a choice and balance those two things.
Yes. And part of building that ideal practice, again, we've got a couple of other services here that I want to share with people because, whenever you're looking to get involved in this business opportunity, it's more than just billing. And that's a reason why when we certify you as a certified medical revenue manager, not just a certified medical biller. Because a certified medical revenue manager is looking at all aspects of the doctor's revenue and their cash flow. And as I mentioned earlier, we've got quick collect and choice pay, both helping that doctor to, especially here in the beginning. We're at the beginning of the year, patients are coming in, new deductibles have started, higher deductibles are out there with a lot of these insurance companies. And some of these doctors need to collect on some of these things. And so we've got some ways in which we can get that done. Now, Dr. Rackner, there was a question that came in here because you mentioned something about the despairing differences of what Medicare reimburses versus what some of these other insurance companies reimburse. And it looks like Yara has asked, how do physicians cope with the low fees paid by Medicare?
Well, really, really interesting question. So I don't know if you've been following politics right now, but here are the doctors who've been risking their lives to treat patients, and they have some financial hardship. Wouldn't it have been nice if Medicare and insurance companies gave them a bonus?
Yeah.
But no, doctors are seeing a 6.7% cut in their Medicare compensation.
Wow.
And this is contributing to the burnout. It's sort of like, is this any way of saying thank you to us? And the thing is that insurance companies key their compensation to Medicare. Okay, so what's happening? Well, there are doctors who are asking, do I even want to treat Medicare patients? So I'm a fellow of the American College of Surgeons. They hired a lobbying company to lobby for these changes to at least be put off for a while. And they argued, Medicare patients might not be able to find doctors. So doctors are increasingly wondering, well, do I really want to accept these patients? Or maybe I want to put a cap on them. It's not a good situation for anyone.
Now, one of your quotes that you make quite often is, and especially to an audience like what we're talking with today, you're saying the physician's pain is your opportunity. Because I'm going to go back to one of the things that you've said also in your book. This is one of them. How does one, I hate to say the word, take advantage of the doctor's pain, but really coming alongside them and helping them? I guess it's a better way to put it.
Right. Okay. So I don't know if you've ever been burned out, but when you're burned out, you know that there's a problem and you know that there is a solution.
Yes.
And when you're burned out, you do not come up with a comprehensive list of solutions. And doesn't it make more sense to get paid for what you already have been done rather than see more patients? Because when doctors think about, I need more income, they know that they exchange their time for money. So they just think, I'm going to have to spend more time. And you can go in and say, look, this problem has another solution. And just open up their eyes. And it's kind of interesting because a lot of doctors said, it was like a VA moment. Like, I never thought of this before. I never thought of it like that. Thank you.
Yes.
The solution is at hand.
Well, and that's why we do all these different services, because if you just focus strictly on, if you're going in and trying to, again, I hate to use these words, but if you're trying to go in there and just sell yourself as a medical billing company and don't come in as a medical revenue management company, to where you can take a look at the doctor holistically, because obviously, yes, you need to make sure that, because, on average, I guess a doctor is going to see anywhere from 25 to 30, maybe even as high as 40 patients, because like you said, what they're probably thinking, let me see more patients, because if I see more patients, I can get more codes billed out and I can get that. But what if we gave the doctor a little bit more opportunity to spend a little bit more time with the patients, because each time that doctor is spending quality time and documented time, that's actually a higher reimbursement than if they just try to churn and burn a lot of patients through their system. Is that a good way to kind of help doctor prevent these burnouts as well?
Yes. So again, in surveys, doctors were asked, what do you need to turn burnout around? And, number one answer was more money.
Yes.
But the how do you get more money?
Yes.
And, the default is I've got to work harder. I've got to put in more hours to make more money. But you can have a conceptual breakthrough like, oh, I didn't realize that. It's just kind of like, most doctors overpay their taxes. Most of us overpay our taxes.
Right.
And there is a way of legally and ethically, cutting your tax footprint. So what if a doctor, outsourced medical billing, collected more of what they're owed, and then took the deductions that they could make? Like, it could be that they work less and increase their income.
Well, it kind of goes along with Jay Singh is asking here. He says, hello, both. Similar to Audit Guard, when using CodeWrite, does one get a list of all the codes that a practice is using and runs it through the ABS system? Well, it's not necessarily the ABS system that you're running it through. You're actually running it through, again, certified professional coders that are going to take a look at that. So it's not just, like I said, it's not just running through a system, a computer system where it's just kind of seeing it's really an audit that we're trying to find out where can the doctor work smarter and not harder, as Dr. Rackner is saying. So we really wanted to be able to take a look at that. And Yarib is asking again, is this service only for patients with private insurance or Medicare patients as well? When we're doing billing for any doctor, we're doing it on what's called a CMS 1500 form. So that means that form is used for Medicare. It's used for Blue Cross Blue Shield, for Aetna, for Cigna, for Humana, all of those different insurance companies. So it's for both. So even for all the Medicare Advantage plans, it's the same code. So any doctor that's doing any billing, no matter what kind, the ABS platform, the ABS system will be able to work for them. Dr. Rackner, you'd mentioned earlier about doctors managing their staff issues and assuring that their practices obviously run smoothly. I want to throw this graph up here because this is so interesting, because this is showing that if a doctor's doing in-house billing, they're having to hire certain staff. They're having to get all the equipment themselves. They have to manage everything. And the way I look at it, Dr. Rackner, is that the doctor's almost trying to run multiple businesses within their practice. they're trying to run their medical practice, and then they're trying to run a revenue cycle management company. And it's almost like you said earlier, a doctor doesn't do their own taxes, they outsource that. And this graph shows that if a doctor could take the same amount of claims that they're doing, this is one of those things where doctor works smarter, not harder. You don't have to have it in your office. Get it out of your office because it's smarter to get out of there. And with the same amount of claims, if they've got somebody hired doing it, maybe 1 or 2 people, it's almost double of what they're spending if they're doing billing in-house versus having it outsourced.
Yeah, so that's a nice argument, Eric, but I'll tell you, emotion drives motion.
That's
right?
good. Good question. Good statement.
People make choices based on fear. And every doctor in a smaller practice knows what happens when the trusted person goes away for 2 weeks on vacation or decides to quit. Like, your practice comes to a halt. So if you just talk with doctors about things like that, like a lot of doctors think that they have more control if they keep it in-house, and doctors love being in control. But what I saw through my own experience is that I was more in charge of my practice when things were outsourced. You know, I had the checks and balances. I knew what my rejection rate was. I knew the profitability of each. Compare that to somebody like Elise, who's working in-house. Do you think Elise wanted to tell us that we had a 30% rejection rate? That's a reflection of her. So she's not going to be honest about that. She's thinking about her own butt, not the health of the practice.
Yeah. And, you know, having it outsourced to a company like any of these people might want to do as a business opportunity, there's an incentive for you to get as much in, take care of the business, because how you're paid depends upon how much you get the doctor back. So there's a huge differentiation between an employee working in-house versus somebody like yourself who is an outsourced billing company. You get greater incentive. It's that whole renter ownership mentality. You know, you've got that renter mentality if you're an employee. You've got this ownership mentality if you're doing the billing for other doctors. You're going to do it as if you're the owner and not a renter. So yeah, good. And then you mentioned something about doctors are driven by fear, and a lot of these, again, doctors need to protect the privacy of their patients and themselves and avoid these HIPAA violations. I mean, you've seen the nightmares of some doctors that get popped for violations of HIPAA.
Oh yeah. So you all know that HIPAA is about a doctor's duty to protect the privacy of the patient, right?
Yep.
So this story will curl your toes. So the doctor had hired an office manager and they were doing a clinical study, and she kept the data on her personal computer. Well, she went off to Hawaii on vacation and lost her laptop.
Oh my.
And the patient data wasn't protected.
Wow.
And there was a $250,000 fine per patient. So it can be a real nightmare. Real nightmare. You know, there's a lot of things the doctors, you know, just are not thinking about. And I think that outsourcing the billing sort of raises your awareness about the importance of privacy and where there can be privacy breaches.
Exactly. And that's why, again, I'm sharing with the group here these services, these different services, because Dr. Rackner is talking to you today about real things that happen to real doctors every single day. And so Compliancy Guard is a service in which you're able to offer the doctor an audit on their HIPAA privacy and making sure that everything's being done properly. Now, again, this is a step-by-step process that through Compliancy Guard is able to take these doctors, these offices, train their staff make sure that they're keeping up with all of their own personal audits. And then they're going to get a seal of approval that they got the HIPAA seal of compliance. And if they were ever audited on a privacy issue, they're actually protected. So it's kind of like a built-in insurance for these doctors. So if you're thinking about getting involved in this business, one of the things I like to coach people on, Dr. Rackner, especially when they're trying to figure out how can I get an audience with the doctor or an audience with the office staff or the office manager. When you're out there marketing your business and you may take an afternoon and just go drop off your card somewhere, when you're visiting with that front office and everybody's been in a doctor's office and you've seen all these sales people come in and out from doctor's offices. So just treat yourself the same way and just say, hi, I'm Eric, or whatever your first name is and whatever the name of your company is here. Just want to find out who is your HIPAA compliancy officer. 100% of the time I've ever asked for that, Dr. Rackner, I always get an audience, always, because first of all, they've already think that they've done something wrong, or if they think that they've done something wrong, they actually want to talk to somebody that can possibly help them. So it truly is people. You nailed it a while ago. People are driven by what they are in fear of more than a lot of times what they'll gain out of it.
Exactly. And, look, to run a successful business, you have to give somebody with money something that they want.
Yes.
We've just started to talk about all of the challenges that physicians face right now. And if you can come in and offer just a little help, you can prove that you can provide value by actually providing some value. And, why is ABS working with me? Well, I know how to build business relationships with doctors. And I think that delivering something of value is great. So I have written a number of books that the ABS licensees give to doctors as a way of building a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a big difference between dropping off a business card and dropping off a book that has your name on the front cover, a book that doctors want to read.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit because you're talking about it. You and Patrick co-wrote this book, The New Thriving Medical Practice. Obviously, this came a lot from your side of the world because of the experience that you had. But it's right. I think it was your idea that told Patrick, what if we were to collaborate, put a book together, and then have the business owner from American Business Systems, these licensees, give them an opportunity to have written the forward to the book, print their name on the front of the book, put their content of everything on the inside of the book. That was a brilliant move.
Well,
brilliant move.
Thank you. And I kind of stumbled on it. Like, I can't believe I didn't think of this earlier.
Sure.
But financial advisors were doing this and they got breakthrough results.
Yes.
So, ABS is going to be offering these kinds of yummy treats that are going to make it easier for you to actually deliver some value and get in front of doctors.
Because you've said this in the past. You and I have also done some interviews in the past, and you said that doctors will listen to other doctors. Just again, with this book being written by a doctor, that kind of helps set the stage of some credibility.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then not only have you written that book, you've also co-authored another book with Adam. It's a little bit smaller book. Obviously something that the doctors can just sit down and read in one evening, but it's the same principle. We've got it, but this one's 9 ways doctors let money slip through their fingers, and just the titles themselves ought to have a doctor that's struggling or going into a new year want to go, wow. And this is a book that can be given to them. Now, how have some of the successful ways have you seen some of the ABS licensees, some of these ABS business owners get these books to the doctors?
It's remarkable. Well, first of all, I'm absolutely blown away. Yes, this is a really small book. It's smaller than The Myth of the Rich Doctor, But doctors absolutely love this book. I've been invited all over the United States to speak with doctors about the content that's in this book. So when you can give doctors something that they really, really want, they're going to want more from you. And Eric, well, you know the licensee story better than I do, but a lot of licensees attribute doctor-client acquisition to passing out this book.
It happened during the pandemic, when you couldn't go knock doors anymore, you couldn't go to any networking places at all. We saw an increase of utilizing these books where people were mailing these books to doctors. They obviously, the doctors had a little bit of time, downtime. And we heard from one of our business owners that mailed 3 of the books and ended up getting 3 clients out of that. Just the books themselves, that books have so much value to them other than just, sending the doctor, leaving the doctor with a business card or a flyer or anything else.
Right, because now you're the expert, right?
Yes.
Once you've got your name on the cover of a book, you're not just a vendor anymore. You're an expert.
Yeah, matter of fact, the doctor called and said, "Hey, I want to talk with you about the book you wrote." Yeah, all he did was write the foreword. So I want to talk with you about the book you wrote. So folks, if you're hearing what we're talking about here, here at ABS, we're giving you a full, complete package here, not just obviously a business opportunity, but with the support that you're going to need, the training, the help that you're going to get. And then, Dr. Rackner, there's times where you will even, along with the book, you could even, with a letter of that you're writing to basically another colleague of yours, from one doctor to another, a letter on behalf of the ABS business owner / licensee.
Right. So the most influential person in a doctor's life is another doctor. One of my 10 laws of physician engagement. And if you were just to send a letter to the doctor, I can guarantee you that the office manager would sift it out. I hired my own office manager, and her instructions were pretty clear. I wanted her to screen out things from people who wanted to sell me something.
Sure.
And let things through that would help me take better care of my patients. Now, no office manager is going to throw away a letter from another doctor.
Right.
And that was my idea for writing this letter. It's just to give the licensees a competitive advantage. Like, let's get this in front of the eyeballs of doctors. So that's why I'm doing this.
And folks, that's just one step. That's just the step to get you, because so many people, Dr. Rackner, and I'm going to, there's a question here that we're going to kind of start wrapping up here and give you just the floor here for the last few minutes here. But, obviously everybody on the call today thinks, okay, this might be a great business opportunity, but how do I get that first client? That's everybody is there. That's where they get it. And you can see here that we've got the books, we've got the material, we got a way to get you in front of the doctor. Once you're getting in front of the doctor, we're going to help you and coach you along to do that practice analysis to kind of see really, is the doctor really leaving any money on the table? And then on top of that, folks, whenever the doctor says, okay, I want to talk with you, you're going to set up and do a live demonstration of the software. Now, that's not you doing that. It's us and you doing the demonstration of the software. We're showing the doctor from the practice analysis what data you found, how we can use the system to get them more money, where again they can work a lot smarter, not so hard. And so, folks, what you're getting here is a complete backing of a team. You've got on the front end, you've got Dr. Rackner, her material, getting you in front of the doctor. ABS is supporting you along the way, all the way to signing that doctor on. And, that's one of the biggest questions that most folks are asking is, how do we get that first doctor? So Eric, I've got this question. I want you to kind of wrap it all in there. Someone says, very informative, Dr. Rackner, any sweet tips for attendees today or recommendations on social groups for networking with physicians? There you go.
Okay. So I told you that I decided already I wanted an outsourced biller. Okay, so how did I find this person to hire? I just went around and I asked people, hey, do you outsource your billing? Do you like the person you're using? And when the same name kept coming up again and again, that's who I interviewed. Now, doctors are victims of financial predators because, you know, doctors make money, and anyone who wants to perpetrate a fraud knows that this is a great audience. So the rate at which you build your practice is the rate at which you build trust.
Yes.
And look, you know, doctors, like you might have doctor neighbors. You go and see doctors to take care of yourself and your family members. So here's my single best tip for getting the first doctor client. What I would do is I would get a bunch of those 9 Money Mistakes book and go to the doctors who treat you and write in the book, "Dear doctor, thank you for your care. This is how you've made a difference in my life. This has been a tough time with the COVID pandemic. And I just want to let you know how much you mean to me. And it also inspired me to give back to doctors. So what I'm doing right now is I am helping doctors get paid what they're owed. Should you know any doctor who wants to learn more, please let them know that I want to take as good care of them as you took care of my family and me." So
that was, go ahead.
That's recorded. Okay.
I was about to say that was golden and that was recorded.
Yes. Okay, but you don't just stop there.
Yeah.
You can go to your friends and say, "Hey, this has been a tough time for doctors. That is why I've made a commitment to serve the doctors by serving the community. I'm giving away a book. If you have any doctor friends or neighbors or family members, have them contact me and I would be happy to get them a book." So it's this conspiracy of service. You're not doing this for you. You're doing it because doctors are in pain, and they shouldn't be in pain alone, especially when you've got a solution for them.
You bet. Dr. Rackner, wow, an hour has already gone by. I'm going to wrap up here, and I want to tell you thank you. People are already saying very informative. Thank you so much. That was from Ted. There's some other folks there. Thank you. I'm going to do my wrap up here, Dr. Rackner. Again, you've been an incredible guest this afternoon. Thank you so much. And I appreciate your time. And I know that everybody else has as well.
It is my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me. Bye-bye.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Rackner. For those that are going to stick on here, give me about 3 to 4 more minutes, and I'm going to kind of wrap up here. One of the things that ABS gives back to you whenever you're thinking about giving things back is that there is a 100% money back guarantee. So what does that mean? You have 30 days to make your complete decision after you have funded your business. And that is even after you've gone through training. And folks, you can't get any better deal than that out there in a business opportunity or a franchise out there than this. Once you mainly have paid your money to anybody else, that money is sealed, it's locked away, it's being spent not with ABS. That money is put into an account to be rested there until your final decision's made. So you've got 30 days, and typically it takes you about 2.5 weeks, maybe 2 weeks to get through the training, and you still have a week or so to finalize your decision. So there's really no risk in a sense, because you will know after you've gone through this training, because you've invested time here on being on webinars. Hopefully you've invested some time on some other things. I'm going to take you through some next steps. And by the time you get to that training and you go through that training and you're still evaluating, you still got that opportunity to ask for your money back. And it's not that we're trying to beg you to give the money or us to give you the money back, but we want to make sure that you are completely 100% satisfied with what you're getting into. So let me kind of take you through 6 little steps here that we encourage everybody to do. And that is, number 1, get the research guide. Get back with the person who invited you today. It's a downloadable PDF that they'll send you. It's about 60 to 65 pages long. It's so much information in there, obviously more than what we can actually handle on a webinar. Check out our YouTube channel. It is youtube.com/YABS. Now, why this is important, because you just heard what Dr. Rackner said. That's recorded. I couldn't write it down fast enough. So at least you can go back and listen to the recording. You can write down exactly what she had to say, word for word. That was golden. That was the price of admission today. So you want to do that. And we've got other recordings of Dr. Rackner and ABS licensees and a lot of other information out there on our YouTube channel. The other thing you need to do is talk with other ABS licensee references. Get again with the person that's invited you to the webinar today. Say, I want that list. I want to talk to some folks that have actually done this, and what did they do and how did they do it? And can I talk to them by myself? Absolutely, you can. We want you to. We want you to have that time to speak to people that have already been here, done that, and they're still in their business. Now, I mentioned earlier, just very so briefly, about a live demonstration. Now, this demonstration is for you. This is you do a one-on-one demonstration with your business coach here. It's the same one that will be done with you and your doctor when you get ready to that point. So go ahead, jump on in, kick the tires, jump on in here, and let's have that one-on-one time with you. Then review the purchase agreement. It's about 4.5 pages long now. I've only shown about 4 pages up here, but on the first page shows about the money back guarantees, but you could take a look at that. And then finally, make that decision. Go ahead and fund it. Let's get you trained. It's the beginning of the new year. There's a lot of things that doctors are trying to figure out right now. You might as well get on the front end of this. That training is live training, just like what we're doing today, one-on-one with you. The only difference is that you're opening up the microphone on your side, so you're able to talk directly there. So give us a call here at 866-565-8413. Ted, thank you for the feedback there. Very informative. Athens says, thank you so much. Ted says, again, thanks, Eric. There's a couple of questions here I'm going to try to answer. So if a few of you want to hang on here until the very end, I'm going to see what I can do. Some of these were maybe towards Dr. Rackner, so I'll see what I can do to help answer that particular question. But Jacqueline says, yes, I heard what Dr. Rackner said in the beginning of the webinar. However, I've been attempting to educate myself on the billing industry, and I continue to notice that quite a few doctors are looking for in-house billers who also perform as receptionist, office manager, etc. Who is the target audience / provider for this service? Really, it's just about any doctor out there. Jacqueline, if you give us the opportunity, we'll help you navigate through some of that with the doctors that are trying to look for an office manager / biller. I promise you that won't work, and it won't last very long, because the doctors need someone specifically doing billing. Simi's asking here, hello. So what mechanism is in place with ABS to protect us from not to fall unknowingly or probably fraudulent provider that you're preparing claims for? Would the inbuilt clearinghouse of ABS able to fish out any such issues? How would the biller be protected? Thanks. There's not a lot of doctors that are out there that are fraud. They're trying to make a living out there. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not going to run into a doctor that might have some fraud and thinking about what they're trying to do and trying to overbill, so to say. That's why you just take your time in interviewing the doctors yourself, because there's been plenty of times where some of our medical billing companies have fired doctors. So it's not just doctors firing billers, but it's billers firing doctors, and it has been done. So that's it. Jacqueline says, thank you. I appreciate that. Absolutely. And one last question. Yogan is asking, who does the codes? The codes are done through the electronic medical record system, the EMRX. That's been done through there. If you need, again, coding help, that's going to be done through CodeWrite or Audit Guard with the certified professional coders. Folks, man, we've already gone over an hour. I always try to keep this within that time frame because I know some of you have other things to get done, but I appreciate those who have stayed. Look, folks, we do this every Wednesday, 4 p.m. Central Time. Adjust that to your wherever your time zone might be there. We will do this again next Wednesday. We look forward to having you back here. Get back with the business coach here from ABS. If you don't know who your business coach is, again, just call us at 866-565-8413 or send an email to info@absystems.com. We'll help you along. Thank you so much. It was a privilege to do this with you. What a great opportunity you have with Dr. Rackner. And again, we'll see you next Wednesday. Thanks again. Good night, everybody. Bye-bye.